Welcome to the 22Q podcast. My name is Becky White, and today Kevin's journey is one filled with immense challenges, incredible resilience, and love. From his very first moments of life, it was clear that his path would not be an easy one. Born at 36 weeks, Kevin entered the world under difficult circumstances, with both his mother, Rahnesha, and himself facing drops in blood pressure during his delivery, which required an emergency C-section. The family was already aware of the risks associated with his pregnancy due to his known heart complications. But when they learned that Kevin had a congenital heart defect, specifically Tetralogy of Fallot with Pulmonary Atresia and MAPCAs, they were faced with a sobering reality of the battles their newborn would need to fight. Despite this overwhelming nature of his diagnosis, Kevin's parents refused to let odds dictate his future. They sought out the best medical care available, traveling all the way to California to consult with the leading heart surgeon who specialized in complex congenital heart conditions. I am so honored to introduce you to Kevin's mom, Rahnesha. Welcome to the 22Q podcast. My name is Becky White, and today I am thrilled to have Rahnesha with me. She is a mother of a 22 cutie named Kevin, and she reached out to me through our social media page and found us and found the 22Q podcast and said, you know what, I really would love to share my story and share my son with the world and what our experience has been like. So I was thrilled to have her on today, and I can't wait to dive into Kevin's story. So Rahnesha, thank you so much for taking the time and being here. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Rahnesha Mitchell. I am from the DC metro area. We just recently moved to Tampa, Florida. I'll get into that later. I have a son that's 10 years old who was born with Tetralogy of Fallot, Pulmonary Atresia, MAPCAs. It's one of the most complex of the Tetralogy of Fallot. And then got a wonderful surprise too that he has DeGeorge, and it's been a ride, but a wonderful ride to learn a lot about my son and his needs and meeting other people in the community that has 22Q DeGeorge.
Yeah, it is a ride.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, tell me about yourself. What do you enjoy?
I really enjoy, being with my husband, Kevin. He's the original Kevin. We named our son after him. I enjoy being with him. He is my best friend. We've been together over 15 years, met at work, but I enjoy being with him. We laugh. I think that's what helps us. I'm not stingy about food. I love trying out different foods.
What's like your favorite go-to, like if you could only eat one more thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's hard.
Like tacos, chocolate, ice cream, pizza, pasta. What is like your go-to comfort food?
Caribbean food. Yeah. Beans and rice, oxtail, and plantains.
Yum. So
and
good.
Cocoa bread.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes, I love
How do you make your cocoa bread? Like,
I don't fix it. I'm not a great cook.
Okay.
I mean, I cook so we can live.
Got it.
That is about it. I could make a pretty good breakfast. I can make like homemade waffles, and I have certain dishes I'm pretty good at, but I'm not. I have friends, like my best friend, she can cook anything. She can cook anything.
And what do you do? What is your career? What do you do?
I'm a contractor for the government, and I work in strategic communications.
Nice.
How I got into the DC areas, I went to George Mason University, and I graduated in public relations, and I stayed in public relations, which was very rare at the time. That was, I think, a very new major, and most people went into insurance. They didn't do PR. And what happened was that I was working 3 jobs my senior year. I worked at the clinic. I worked at some student advisory board. And then I worked in Georgetown as an internship. Because of that internship, I was able to get a job. I had a portfolio of all my work, and I got a job with National Automobile Dealers Association. And that's where I met my husband. And I traveled all over the United States for conferences and everything. It was just a great time in my life. And, it was wonderful. I really loved it there. But that's That's how I got into what I do. And I've been doing that for over 20 years, marketing, communications, strategic communications. I write speeches. So all that.
Nice. Wow. You are a hard worker. I know. I just
Oh,
met you.
yeah.
You are a hard worker. I can tell.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. But I would love to hear more about Kevin and the beginning, even right when you got pregnant. What was that journey like for you with Kevin?
So our first trimester was great. We were planning on having another child right after. It was like, oh yeah, this is easy. This is great. And let me just back up. I never thought about what my wedding was going to be like. I didn't think I was going to get married. I didn't think I was probably going to have children. I just wasn't that type of person. I was all about traveling and just living the world. And then we got married and I didn't care about a wedding. I wanted a house. I didn't care about any of that stuff. But then something hit me. It was like, no, you want to have children. So we got pregnant and the first trimester was great. And then they make you do that genetic test. And I'm thinking everything should be fine. Then they called me back and said, oh, something with the test. And I'm like, what now? And they said, there's something going on. So now you got to do the 3D ultrasound. We start going there and they're saying, well, we think there's something wrong with his heart, but we also think he may have trisomy 21. And for people that doesn't know what trisomy, I had never heard of it myself. Trisomy 21 is where children are born. They're really, really little. Their heads are really, really small. It's basically a lifetime of disability where they really can't live on their own if they pass a certain age. So and then they wanted someone doing that amniocentesis. I forgot what that thing is where they go. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it because it could harm the baby. Remember, this is like 10 years ago. So things were a lot different. We did do the test for trisomy. The funny thing was, like, I was working, I was traveling. I flew pregnant to San Diego for a conference. And I had to get up, walk on the plane because I'm pregnant. I'm like 5 months pregnant. And I was taking the little heartbeat monitor to listen and make sure he's fine. My husband would not let the doctors call me about the trisomy test because we were waiting the results. He had them call him. And then he called me and said it was negative for trisomy. So he did not have trisomy. So dealing with all that, I'm traveling. We get back and then I have to do all these 3D ultrasounds. And they still like, there's something going on with his heart. We think he has maybe Tetralogy of Fallot. Don't even know what that is. And somehow it's 4 things, it's whole, there's all this stuff. Then I had to go to the hospital like every other week. I had to eat peanut butter and drink water to get him moving so they could count how many times he's moving. So while I'm working and I'm commuting, because this is pre-pandemic, people, like we did have to go to work at one time every day. I'm commuting and then I'm going to the doctor every week for them to check me. I wasn't gaining weight like they wanted me to. My husband was. We were going, there's a great place in DC called Ben's Chili Bowl. And my husband was like, every week, let's go there and have chili cheese fries. And all I wanted was like lettuce and tomato. Yeah. Like I didn't have no cravings, really, none. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't, the doctor would be like, you need to gain weight. And I'm like, I'm trying. My husband's like, we're gaining weight. And he got the pregnancy weight, not me. He did. Right before I went into labor, he wasn't moving. So I would go to the doctor and I had to stay overnight. And then after a while, he starts moving. I don't know what was going on with that.
And how many weeks were you at that point? Sorry to interrupt you.
35.
Okay.
So by 36, 2 days, he came. So he was not considered full term. We were trying. And when I woke up, well, I had a dream thinking I was going into labor. I woke up, I don't mean to be graphic, but, went to the bathroom and I saw blood. And I called my husband because he was downstairs and we went to the hospital. And what ended up happening was that, of course, these contractions are coming. They're telling me, yeah, it could be a couple of days till you have the baby. Said a couple of days. I'm like, no, give me the epidural. And let me just back up too. I always knew that I probably would have a cesarean. I'm a cesarean baby. I was like, y'all give me drugs. I don't care. I'm not going to do this natural birth mess. That's not me. I'm like, give me the epidural. My husband's like, no, we don't need an epidural. I said, who's having the baby? You or me? Because I'm not staying here for days waiting for this baby to come out. And then I wouldn't even dilate. And then, they thrust their hand up in you. And
all the stuff.
It was just awful.
That nobody tells you about.
Nobody tells you, Once they gave me the epidural, which took them 3 times to do, I am crying like a
Ooh.
baby. I've never felt pain like that in my life. And then they scare you. If you move,
You move.
you're paralyzed. So, they taking this thing and shooting fire up my back. My blood pressure completely dropped. And then the baby heartbeat dropped. So they did a code blue. And it's one of those things, I would never want to go through that again. When your mind is still good, but your body is completely done. And they're like, can you move? And I'm like, no, I can't move. So they had to come in and pick me up and put me on the bed, and they took me out. Originally, Kevin was supposed to go with me in for the cesarean. They told him, you can't go.
You don't have time.
Yeah. And basically they delivered, I thought I was dying. So I'm looking up at lights. I'm thinking, this is it. I said, let the baby live, I'll die. And they delivered him. They were like, man, we're going to have to deliver him in 3 minutes. And he delivered him in 3 minutes. And it was a Black woman that delivered him, which was amazing. Like, you don't hear about that. They're a Black obstetrician that delivered him. She did it in 3 minutes. I hear him, but I don't, you have that curtain. I hear him, but I don't see him. So I didn't get to do the chest to chest, which I really, really, really wanted to do. And I didn't get to do that. So they put him in that incubator, and they had to take me back out. And Kevin was the first to see our son. I didn't see little Kevin until right after my dad, mom, who are divorced, and then my in-laws, Kevin's parents, came in, and then we all saw the baby together that first time. He was in an incubator. He was 4 pounds and 8 ounces.
Little guy.
He was really, really, really tiny. Like, Kevin could hold him with his hand. And then, after having cesarean and stuff, you get that itch.
Yep.
I thought I was, and then I felt like I was still pregnant. I thought I was, you sleep, it takes your body. They say if you're having a baby vaginally, your body knows. When you have a cesarean, it takes a while for your body to understand that you don't have the baby anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm twitching and itching like I'm on drugs or something. And then I get to see the baby. Then the next thing that comes, you need to start producing milk. I'm like, milk? Like, my breast never really got like that big. It gave me that old school one, and it hurt like hell. This is awful. So the good news is that where he was born was in Washington Hospital Center. Children's is right beside there. So they took him to children to the NICU because he's a heart baby and he was a preemie at the same time.
Yeah. First, I want to say that I feel for you. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this in, but I had a very similar experience.
Yeah.
C-section, didn't get to do the chest to chest. He was rushed off. He had multiple things going on. So I hear you, and I wish I could give you a hug, because when you're in it, you just go through the flow.
Yeah.
Then you have the aftermath, like months later, of trauma.
Yes.
Of that.
On top of that, with postpartum.
Exactly.
So while this was happening, the doctors, I didn't find this out until days, weeks later. The doctors came to my husband and was like, you almost lost your wife and your son, both of them. If we did not do what we did, you would have lost both of them. Because my blood pressure had completely dropped, and Kevin's heartbeat had dropped. He's a heart baby. So because of the obstetrician doing what she was supposed to do really fast, thinking fast, she saved both of our lives, because I really thought I was dying.
So you have visual comprehension of what was going on, but you couldn't move your body.
I don't know if you ever seen like one of them like Law and Order episodes. Where, your brain is working fine.
Yeah.
Your body just cannot move. And that's exactly what it felt like. It was an awful feeling. I've never felt anything like that in my life. Yeah. Wow. And I think it was just because of the epidural. I guess my body just wasn't used to it. It just like it rejected it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. So he's here. Kevin is here. What was the first thing they wanted to address with him? Just getting a meeting and getting him a little bit bigger before.
Yeah. The problem with him was that his respiratory, he was breathing too fast and he could not take the breath. It was hard for him to take the breaths first. And I really wasn't producing milk. You as women, moms, I didn't really have any complications. So I stayed my 3 days And then I got to go home, and it was just depressing because my baby wasn't with me. And I had to try to breastfeed, and I'm depressed. My mom and husband, my mom's thinking one way, my husband's thinking another way, and it was just depressing. So trying to make milk, and then got to go to the hospital every day to be with him. And I'm a new mom. I don't know anything about babies. I was never raised around babies. I didn't know how to change diapers. I didn't know how to do anything. So not only does he have the little tube in his nose, he is fully wired up. So I had to learn how to change diapers with my baby wired up.
Isn't that the worst?
I mean, the nurses showed me real quick, and then I had to take it from there. At Children's, it was me and another mom and her baby, but we only separated by a curtain. So I had to still try to produce milk. So imagine people coming in and out the room, and you're trying to, produce milk. I think I produced one bottle, and my mom will be like, "Oh, well, when you were a baby, I was able to donate milk." I'm like, "Well,
you're not helping."
You can take the bottle or the nipple because the breathing was too rapid. So he had to work with the OT, and he basically just had to get the milk and stuff through his nose, and it was formula.
So now that he has the NG tube and he's gaining calories and was he getting bigger?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, good.
He was. He really didn't regurgitate. He didn't have acid reflux or anything like that. He didn't have any issues with his organs or anything. It was just his heart. But after a month of trying, I told the doctor, which was a woman doctor, I can't do this anymore. I can't breastfeed. And she patted me on my back and she said, "Good for you." She was like, "I made a decision. Formula will work." Formula's been feeding kids for a long time. So we put him on formula after a month. I couldn't do it.
Good for you is right. You feel like you're I similar experience.
Yeah.
Didn't produce 3 months of pumping and getting an ounce after an hour.
Yeah. After your breast
feeling like you're a failure, feeling like I'm not producing and feeding my child, depressed, postpartum, recovering from C-section. It was awful. I hear you.
That was the one great thing, though, I will say about my body was that I didn't have any issues with the same.
So now that he's still in the hospital, how long was he in the hospital?
He was at Children's for 3 weeks, and then they moved him for the hospital for sick children for another 2-3 weeks. And it was still in Washington, D.C.
Okay. When did they start to talk about repair? What was the game plan? Because you had mentioned not only Tetralogy of Fallot, there was other things going on.
So fortunately for him, his heart was okay for a few months for them before they started doing a cast. So I guess they said he was fine to go home. But while we were at Children, that's when we got the DeGeorge. When we found out he had DeGeorge. So,
and what was that moment like? Like, what did
it was weird. It was these people in the room, and I'm like, "Why are y'all here?" And they were like, "Well, we gotta let you know that he has a genetic condition." And we're like, "What is it?" Because he looked fine to us. And they were like, "He has DeGeorge," and we were like, "Well, what is that?" We had a social worker who was the worst social worker, and she was trying to tell us about it, and it was just, I guess it was one of those things we'll have to cross that bridge when we need to, because he was a baby, and I'm just trying to get him home. I think it was one of those things at that time. It's kind of went over my head, and I was like, I'll research that later. I don't have time to really look into what DeGeorge is. I'm trying to get him home. And they were talking about moving him to hospital for sick children at the time. I was, wake up, and then I would go to hospital for sick children. I would be there basically 15-hour days just to be with him so he can know my voice, know my smell, know everything. And then my husband came from work, got on Metro, and then meet me there. And then we would only go home just to get some rest. And then we came, and he would go off to work, and then I would go right back to the hospital. And my mom came. We spent Thanksgiving at Children's, and his first Christmas was at hospital for sick children. And he was very blessed because he had both my husband's parents, his grandmother, which was Kevin's great grandmother, then my mom, my dad, like I said, who are divorced, and my mom's mom, which is my Kevin's other great-grandma. So 2 great-grandmas were there.
Yeah.
And it was nice because you would get to hospital for sick children. The nurses would like crochet blankets and really nice stuff. We still have the stuff today.
Yeah.
And he had a pacifier that was bigger than his head, but he loved the pacifiers.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Whatever soothes them.
Yeah.
You know?
And after Christmas, that's when
Yeah.
we were able to take him home, if I remember correctly.
So they did not do the heart surgery yet. They waited.
No. So fast forward, maybe like 2-3 months after we went back to Children's for this cast. And we think we've never been through this before. So we're like, oh, this should be like easy peasy. They just go through, check his heart, say his heart's all right, and that's it.
Yeah.
Nope. He got anesthesia, and then he had an allergic reaction.
Oh, no.
So we're getting like almost like, you got to come back. Something's going on with the baby. And mind you, my mother and my mother-in-law came with us. So they're just like, they never been through this either. Then the doctor sat Kevin and I down, and that's when he was telling us, like, he does have Tetralogy of Fallot, but it's more complex than that. He has, it's called Pulmonary Atresia and MAPCAs. So basically, when a baby's in utero, they have these connections with the heart, because of the mom. Once they come out, they disappear, and then you get your arteries and all that. Basically, Kevin did not really have those. He still had the, I don't want to explain it, but he had the other pieces that still came from utero.
Wow.
So you can't live like that. You need that piece, which is the conduit, to connect everything.
Got it.
And I didn't really know this, but the doctor, I guess, took Kevin to the side and said, he's basically got 60% chance of living. So we took little Kevin, he was a baby, to the little room because they're going through anesthesia, they still sleep, and my mom's trying to talk to me, and I'm praying over the baby, and that social worker came over and said, yeah, we may not be able to fix him. And I said, what do you mean may not be able to fix him? Well, he may not live. And it's like, what? And so then she gets a chaplain to come. And so my mother and my mother-in-law basically cussed out the social worker because they were like, why are you bringing this? And then they're like, take pictures and enjoy him now. I mean, it was all this like preparing for death or something.
Gosh. Oh, wrong choice of words on her part. Oh,
so
gosh. That's
what
awful.
What ended up happening is that they moved him to ICU, but he was in a room by himself. My mother and mother-in-law, Kevin had to take my mother and mother-in-law back home because it was just too much for them. It was really, so I stayed. And this nurse came in, and I was telling her, and she was like, well, maybe you might want to look into Philly because they have they call it CHOP. They have a children's medical center there too. And they're supposedly really good with babies' hearts. And I was like, okay. So what I ended up doing, I started Googling exactly what my son had. This lady from Frederick, Maryland was saying that her daughter went to, I don't want to put the other hospitals out there because I don't want to get in trouble. She sent her daughter to get surgery from other hospitals, and the baby had a stroke. So she sent her child out to California to get the surgery done. And I'm like, California, we have no family, we have no friends. Like, I don't know anybody out in California. And I connected with her, and she basically led me the way of how to get out there. I contacted Lucille Packard, Stanford, and found Dr. Frank Hanley. And they were like, well, we're going to need all his records. And I'm like, I don't know anything about records. So I contacted my son's cardiologist at the time. I don't want to give her name out either because I don't want to get in any trouble. And she said, are you looking for a second opinion? And I said, yeah. She said, I will overnight those documents to California. And she did.
That right there shows what an amazing doctor she is.
Yep.
Because she's humble enough to say that this child's life is more important than my dignity and my career and my persona.
Yeah.
And to get a second opinion, there's nothing wrong with a second opinion. And if your doctor is offended by a second opinion, you have the wrong doctor.
Yes.
Sorry, continue.
So, like I said, this is over 10 years ago. I think California sent a letter or an email. I can't remember, but
you eventually got out there.
Yeah, they said he's a great candidate.
Good.
Send him out there. So, but the doctor at Children's in DC was like, well, just check with the doctors here to see what they can do in DC, because all of them come from the same area, and then they all disperse, and they're all good at certain things with the heart. So there was another baby we knew who was born with like a half a heart or something. Children's in DC is really great at basically building that heart. It's like 3 major surgeries, but they can build it. So each of them are good at specifically at something different for the heart. So we did go to Children's and ask them, and they were saying, well, we can do it, but he may lose a lung, he'll get cut twice. And we were just like, no. So we got the acceptance letter. So like I said, I'm still working. And let me just say real quick, during this time, my son couldn't go to daycare for the first year. So I'm looking for a nanny. And a nanny was like $72,000. It was basically my salary at the time. My parents, who were divorced, and my in-laws, who had just retired, basically for a full year rotated to be with Kevin so I could keep my job. They did that. Yeah.
If they're listening,
yeah.
God bless you. Oh gosh. You are warriors. If only every family had that. That is amazing. That
they were like
that.
I think my father-in-law was just like, no, she needs
that's
to
priceless. Yeah. And there's nothing better than family taking care of your baby.
Yep.
You know?
So
wow.
At the time, I had a wonderful boss, and I told her my story, and she was like, I was like, I don't know anybody in California, because we had to worry about like where we're going to stay. So she went to Wharton. She contacted some friends from Wharton. They contacted some friends in California, and this lady reached out to me. Was like, hey, I'm going to Romania for 3 weeks. You can house sit. I live in Menlo Park. And so we were like, wow. Then I found a company that provides free flights. It's for kids who have conditions, like if they don't get the help, they'll pass away.
So like a medical flight, an emergency medical flight.
So they flew us out to California, and it was basically a round trip. They flew us out and everything for free.
Wow.
And then we had somewhere to stay for free. So all we had to do was get a rental car.
Wow. So you get out there. The surgery is successful, I'm guessing.
Yes, usually those surgeries, I think about could be about 11 to 15 hours. Kevin's was 8 hours.
Wow.
He was there so they said that he would be there probably 3 weeks. He was there for a month and a half. Wow. He had a breathing tube on him for weeks. And then they said he had aspirated. So when we left for California, he was on a bottle. When we came back with tons of medications and back on the nose tube. Yeah. Because they said he had aspirated. He couldn't take a bottle anymore. So he was about 6 months at the time. This was July 2013. He was like 6-7 months at the time. So we flew back, myself, my husband, my stepdaughter, and the baby, and we are rotating with medications around the clock on a commercial plane, and passing the baby around to give him his medication. We had to give him medication in the middle of the night, and we had to feed him every few hours. It was this machine that he had to be on, and it was every 2-3 hours we had to feed him. So nobody was getting any sleep. And he would pull the tube out. So then my husband had to, I learned how to do it, but I just couldn't do it. My husband had to put it back in there. Yeah. My dad would have to like hold him down. And the men had to hold him down while he did it. Awful. And then we had to get OT involved, because after a while he got scared, taking a bottle, eating with a spoon, all kinds of stuff, because he just wouldn't take it in his mouth anymore. So we had to get OT to work with him. And then after a while he got back on and started taking it by mouth again. Yeah. Oh, that is one roller coaster of a first year. You know, now that it's been 10 years and you look back on it, can you believe that you did it and you survived it? Yeah, I mean, I can believe that I survived it, because I had a great partner with my husband and a great family with my in-laws and my mom and dad and my grandmothers and cousins and niece and aunts and uncles. So yeah, I mean, family helped a lot, but I think the core is like my husband and I, my stepdaughter, all of us just hunkering down. I mean, you know, you do what you have to do, I guess. When you're in it, you just do what you have to do.
Yeah, you are completely in it and you're just in survival mode. Wow, what a story and what a journey you all have been on. And how is Kevin now? And has he had any other operations pop up over the past 10 years? How's he doing?
So, I mean, it's like the common stuff, ear tubes, adenoids, and then, his teeth. That's the thing
Yes.
too about the George kid's teeth.
Yes.
It is amazing that when they see his heart, they're always like, you did the best thing taking him to California. That was the best thing you did for him. Because they're like his arteries. They say his arteries look beautiful. We just had a calf, and he'll have to get the conduit replaced soon. But they're just like, they've seen other kids and they've had to have multiple surgeries. And because we took him to the person that is his specialty, Dr. Hanley did a beautiful job.
It is amazing, these surgeons that operate on these tiny babies and the miracles they do for these kids.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I can't fathom. What is Kevin like? What's his personality like? What is he?
A very sweet, loving boy, but he loves to talk and talk. He loves toys. He loves like figurines. He still likes stuffed animals. We try to get him off of that. He can get obsessed with stuff and he gets very fixated.
Yeah.
He asks you the same question over and over and over again. He can't have an old soul. He loves music. He loves singing. He's not into athletics, but he loves music, singing, and he knows his planets. He knows his continents. He likes science. But he is delayed. We had him in speech. He started school at 3. In the DC area, they have the infants and toddlers program, and at 3. You could either keep on doing therapy or you could enroll him in school. It was like, put him in school. And he rode the bus. Him and another young little girl rode the bus at 3 years old. So what I was going to get into real quick is that we're from the DC metro area. Well, in the county that we were in, after his class was the last class for special ed. Once they get to middle school, they put them in a general ed class with 25 plus students, with a general ed teacher and a special ed teacher. And we knew he would drown. He does have delays. His speech is great now.
Yeah.
But his reading is behind. His math is behind.
Math is a tough one that's a cue.
It is very tough. So we challenged the school. We were just like, the teacher was terrible. So what ended up happening was that we had to get an advocate. But at the same time, my husband and I were just like, we even contacted the deputy director of Maryland schools. And she said, there are no charter schools for special needs kids. None. Now, you either have to pay for private school, which is $40,000 to $80,000 a year, or you get the county to pay for it, which is very hard. You basically have to get a lawyer to basically sue the school system. So we heard about schools down in Tampa, Florida, and we went down and looked at 6 schools. Found one. They're charter schools, and he got in. So we relocated to the Tampa area, had to leave our friends and family who we love. We don't have no family down here, but we came down here and got him enrolled into school down here, and he loves it.
Has he? As my question, how's it going?
It's going well. It's a school for kids. All kids have IEPs, and that all the teachers are, special educators. And he loves it.
Would you mind sharing the name of the school?
Sure. Pepin Academies in Riverview.
Nice.
They have 3 campuses, one in Tampa and one in Pasco County, and they're building another one in Wesley Chapel. But it started off from a family that had kids they started off like in 2012 with a family, and, they had kids that had special needs, and I think the school just wasn't a good fit. So they made their own school, and it's grown. So it's from 3rd to 12th grade. And then if they don't go the diploma track, they go through the work track, and they work with places in Tampa to find jobs for kids too.
That's great. So social skills and basic career knowledge. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, you and your husband are amazing, because I truly mean that, because moving and relocating and finding the school for your son, I hope you guys know how incredible you are.
Thank you.
That takes a lot, and clearly you can just tell how much you love Kevin and want the best for him. It's really hard to do that. And you guys did it.
I mean, yeah, we were blessed. We have jobs that were able to accommodate us.
Yeah, that too.
I guess as a parent, you just do what you have to do. My mom had to do that for me, come as, parents were divorced. And, his parents lived in a really great area for them to go to good public schools, even and his mom had to deal with like a 45-minute commute, more than 45-minute commute, harsh commute. And she did it, you learn that from your parents. You want to continue that. And I understand there's parents that just can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
I have no judgment because that
No,
could be
not
me.
at all.
That could be anybody.
Right.
But if you have the advantage to do it, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad he's doing well.
Yeah, you just want your children
liking.
at the end of the day just be a good human. Not to hurt anybody, just be a good human. That's all you want. If my son was working at Goodwill for the rest of his life, I don't care. As long as he's a good human. That's all you want.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And through this journey with your son and all of this, what do you feel so far has been the biggest struggle for you as a caregiver and a mom and a parent? What has been like the biggest thing for you?
Patience. And then you just worry about them. The George kids, I think another thing is like social skills, learning. And then a lot of them are very, even though Kevin is 10, physically, mentally, he's probably still like at 6 or 7. So boys his age are into video games and, maybe sometimes sports. And Kevin's still talking to the stuffed animals or, he'll still watch Peppa Pig or Bluey, and boys his age be like, I don't do that anymore, It could be hard for him. Sometimes he just likes to take over whatever everybody else is doing and may not want to do that, or he gets fixated on stuff, and it's hard for him to move on to the next subject, as some kids can do. So, I worry about that for him. But we try to put him in different programs so he can meet and be around other kids. And, one thing about him, he does not hold grudges. He don't forget stuff sometimes, but he doesn't hold grudges. And, he moves on, even I think sometimes those kids are not nice to him. He still tries to be their friend.
Yes.
So,
and it can break your heart sometimes.
Yeah.
Just all you want for them is to find one buddy or one person that could be that person to hang out and watch Bluey, or just be on his level. Hard.
But they definitely, I will say, like, Tampa area has a lot of resources. They have this thing called the Penguin Play, where they work with kids with special needs and they do a play.
That's great.
They have, Special Olympics. They have all kinds of stuff. Like Special Olympics are trying to like hold off until he gets his conduit replaced.
Yeah.
Because you gotta be kind of careful with sports and stuff.
Oh yes.
But is just trying, in the DC we had King, which was really nice. It's like with kids with special needs, and they have like these they're like adults and they play with them, and Kevin loved it. And it was nice because we get an hour break. And my husband and I would go like walk around at a food hall in DC and just get that little break while he's doing that. But they're having little stuff down here in Tampa too that we're learning about. We're just starting to take advantage of. So, but he loves swim. He likes to be in the water. He likes beaches like that. He loves that. He does really well with that. It's just his listening skills too can be a lot.
Yes.
That's where the patience is. Like, you tell him something, he's still going to do it. And, just trying to work with him. But, he's happy. But at the end of the day, like, he's happy, and his family is very important to him. He loves his family. We were just in the DC area staying with my in-laws, and he loves his Nana and Papa. And he see his cousins. He was so happy to see his cousins. My best friend and I are, all my friends, we have 3 boys, it's cousins, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they have a son and daughter, those his first cousins, and he was just glad just to see everybody. So it was nice.
That's great.
It's nice to reconnect because we don't really have that down here. We like the Tampa area a lot. It's up in DC area, it's just very hustle, like because it's so expensive, and politics and you're always like, we got this, we got to do this, we got to do that. Out here, we got to like breathe.
Good.
And it's nice.
Yeah.
And he's happy.
Good.
And that's all that matters. So right now, it's really just school and
Navigating school.
That's really it.
Keeping an eye on his heart. And having been his mom for 10 years now, almost 11. And if you could stand on a stage and have everyone listen to you for 5 minutes, what is the one thing you would want the world to know about Q and being a mom of a cutie? And what would you want the world to know that they may not know?
I guess for me is that I don't want people to feel sorry for me or for Kevin as if he was like the wrong child. He was the right child. I think what bothers me sometimes is when women are pregnant and they're always like, we want you to have a healthy baby. And I always come back and was like, my son was not born healthy, but he was happy. And to me, it's like in their world, they're happy. A lot of them are happy, even though we know how this world is. And like, just kind of quote Holly Robinson Peete, whose son has autism, is that, she just wished the world would make space and allow her son to be him versus he trying to be whatever the world wants him to be. I feel the same way, like, that nobody has a wrong child. Everybody has a right child. And, some people just feel like, oh, my child don't have any issues. My child is fine, but you don't know what's going to happen later on, So I just wish people would just be more cognizant of that. Sometimes I could tell people when they meet him and stuff, it's like, oh, something's wrong. It's like, it's nothing wrong with him. He's right. He's him. He's Kevin.
He's beautiful, just as he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's Kevin. And it's funny. Like I saw him talking to one of his cousins and he's playing his video game but Kevin's talking, but he's just listening. But he's doing his things. Like, I'm going to do my thing. Kevin, you just talk on and on. I want to do my thing, but I'm listening to you. But
listening and I love you, but I'm playing my video game.
Kevin's just like, whatever. He's just talking about some Peppa Pig item
I love it.
Or something. He's fixated on for the day. But it was cute because he was just like, I'm playing my video game, but I'm listening to you.
I love it. Oh, Kevin sounds like a love. Just pure love, he sounds like.
Pure love and energy. Yes. That's
great. Say, I don't know, a family is just got the diagnosis that their kid has 22q and then also has Tetralogy of Fallot. What kind of advice would you offer that family if they're listening to this episode?
It's not the end of the world. You just have to do the research. What I learned when we went to California and when we were going through the heart surgery, there was another kid there that was getting a transplant. And he was so tired of his body rejecting it. He passed away. And just imagine that family. They were bringing in a child whose parents didn't even know the child even had a congenital heart disease. Imagine that. Like, there's always someone else going through something worse than you are, and they have a smile on their face. Being at a hospital for sick children whose their kids are there for months and years, and parents still come in taking care of them. There's always someone that's going through something worse. So, learn about it and work around, because that's your child. You're going to have good days and you're going to have not so good days. At the end of the day, that's your child. And you have to be your own child's advocate. You have to fight, because nobody else will. Not the teachers, not the doctors, nobody. Only you will. So you have to put in that effort.
Yeah. And it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
But it's worth it.
It's worth it. Oh, yeah. And you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
To your child.
Yeah.
I mean, children just naturally, they're just a-holes a lot of the time. But, you have...
Did you just say a-holes?
They are. They are little a-holes.
Sometimes.
They are. And they don't care.
No.
They say what's on their mind. They are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And, but you learn how to navigate around that. Yeah, you have to. Because the world's going to keep moving. It's not going to stop.
Exactly. Great advice. What keeps you going? Because you seem like such a beautiful soul, and you seem so together and so calm and collected. How do you find this passion and the time to research doctors and just keep going? What is it for you?
I will say the one thing great about me is that I'm very, very persistent. And I think that's where maybe Kevin gets his fixatedness. Me and probably my grandmother, because she could be that way too. If I get fixated on stuff, I research it to the end until I get what I need. And then I will bug people until I get my answer. Now, that might be just communications in me. We're just researchers. We have to do that kind of stuff. And that's just the way I take that with anything I love.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things, and I just read. I love reading.
Mm-hmm.
I do things like that to escape. I like watching shows. It helps me escape, and hanging, talking to my family, my best friends, and being with my husband, and those things I think help me out. So yeah, those are things I would say.
Nice. Through all of this trauma, hard times, good times, what has Kevin taught you about yourself through all of this?
That I would not take no for an answer. I always feel like there's another way. That is what he taught me, because I feel like there were doctors before, like giving up, and it's like, no, we're not going to give up. And from there, I really have never given up. A lot of times I don't take no for an answer. And I've taken that professionally as well, my jobs and stuff too. I'm just that way. Being with Kevin, and he's such a, if there is a negotiating school out there, I will put him in that, enroll him in because that boy can negotiate anyone down. He is just, you tell him 2, he tell him, well, what about 3? Drives you crazy so much you just like take it. So yeah, so that's what I've learned about myself, is like, don't take no for an answer.
Nice. And if you could go back in time to when you got his TQ diagnosis and you could stand next to yourself 10 years ago, what would you say to yourself in that moment, having lived through it now?
It's going to be a hard road. It's not easy. It is definitely not easy, but you have a great support system that is there for you, and you'll make it through. I mean, I'm talking about this is the first 10 years. Now, the next 10 years, I'm sure I'm going to need it again. Again, because the next 10 years, what I've been reading is really not easy. Teenage years coming up. But, take a breather, take a prayer, have a glass of wine, when he sleeps, relax, those things are what keep you, when he's going away at school, those things are what keep you going.
You couldn't have said it better.
You're going to need it. You're going to need it.
And if he ever listens to this episode years from now, what would you want him to know from his mom?
That his mom and dad did everything they could to make sure that he has a happy life. And we did everything. We tell him that sometimes, like, we left our home, we left our friends, just learn to be sometimes a little bit more appreciative. He gets in, we go to stores, he always wants to buy something. And I'm like, got to learn to be appreciative of what you have. There are kids that don't have anything, and you need to be appreciative of what you have. You're living a great life right now, considering what's going on in this world. So you need to be appreciative, and that your dad and I fought everything so you can have a great life.
You sure did. And I want to just thank you so much for being on today.
And thank you. This is very therapeutic.
Yeah, I hope it was, because your story could possibly help another family.
Oh, yes, please,
on their journey, and just understanding that we're all here, and there varies, but we're here. And I want to just thank you so much. And I just want to commend you, your husband, your in-laws, your parents. They are amazing. They love Kevin. I can just tell you guys all love Kevin so much, and he's such a lucky little guy to have all of you. So I want to pat all of you on the back and just keep going, because you're doing the best you can for your son. You're literally doing the best you can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Every day is a new day.
So thank you again for being on, and I wish you all nothing but the best.
Thank you.
If you would like to contact the 22Q podcast with questions, comments, or if you're interested on being on this podcast, you can email me at 22qpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast to help raise awareness about 22q. And never forget, 22q family, that you are not alone. Hey, 22q podcast listener. This is the legal language that I have to read to you, so here it is. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your 22q mom friend. I am not a licensed therapist, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. All right? So I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.